Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, A Couple of Books. This is Couple over here. This is going to be a book review of five books. And this book review is going to basically be spoiler free, so therefore it is safe for you to watch this video and then go buy these books and read them and then tell me all about what you thought. If you are to go buy these books, make sure you shop at your own local bookstore and support the small businesses in the world, especially during these crazy times. Let's get to the books. The first book we're going to discuss today would be The Cabin at the End of the World by Paul Tremblay. This is a horror/thriller novel. I enjoyed it immensely. It's my first Paul Tremblay novel. I heard about this from BookTube, as most of my books are heard from. And this basically follows these two men, this gay couple, Eric and Andrew, and their daughter, who is Wen, and she's 7 years old. Both these fathers and their daughter just want to go on a nice family vacation, and they go to this little cabin in the woods. Basically, crap goes down. A man appears and starts talking to little Wen. He basically just tells her that he's her friend, and he's here to help her. And don't worry, he's not going to do anything to her. It just so happens that that probably seems a little weird, even though he's saying, I'm your friend. Most of the time, if some weird man comes to you and says, hey, I want to be your friend, worry, that's usually cause for concern. That would hold true in this book as well. To avoid spoilers, I'm not going to go much deeper into that, except that basically there's a group of people and they show up to this family at this cabin, and crap goes down. And let me tell you, wowzer, this book is insane. It has a lot of body horror, so if that's not something that's your particular cup of tea, then avoid this book. It has some home invasion-esque horror tropes involved, so if that keeps you up at night, don't read this as well. But overall, an amazing read, really interesting, really fast-paced. It hits the ground running. I started reading it and I literally couldn't put it down. Probably by like page 50, I was like, okay, I'm committed. I read it all in one sitting. Like, wowzer. I'm personally gonna give this book a 4 out of 5 stars. That is just because there were some parts in the book that didn't necessarily like keep me so like in the moment, and not that it really took me out of it, but it just kind of put me on pause of the story while we went somewhere else. This is an amazing book. Highly recommended for anyone who likes body horror, or anyone who likes home invasion, or anyone who likes metaphoric storytelling. This is a very good book to read, and the ending is super ambiguous, so if that's going to drive you bonkers, then maybe you will also want to avoid this book. But personally for me, it's fun, because you finish this book and all of a sudden you're like, well, what was the ending? I don't know. You don't know. Maybe you do. I don't. That's all I know. Amazing book, 4 out of 5 stars. The next book is a debut novel by Jasper DeWitt. It's called The Patient. This follows a doctor who is sent to work at this psychiatric hospital with these patients. There's one patient there that is just kind of off, more so than you would expect being in a mental hospital. The doctors there have kind of given up on treating him. They kind of just locked him in a room and been like, we're done with you. This is not spoiler because it kind of happens from the beginning. Hospital staff try and avoid him. The director of the hospital says stay away from him. Anyone who's tried to treat him has ended up in a bad situation. Very interesting premise. My only issue with it is I thought it was a little too short and sweet. The character Parker was kind of annoying because he's just kind of one of those overconfident young doctor types, I would guess. Not that I know any of those. The author does a very good job of really drawing you in and really making you curious about what is going on with this patient and who is he, where does he come from, why is he there, what has he done to these other doctors that have made him kind of a blacklist patient. And it's a very interesting book. Absolutely recommend for anyone who loves the whole asylum mental horror tropes out there. Very good, very well done. I'm going to give it a 3.5 out of 5 stars. That's only because I thought it was a little too short and the ending was not super satisfying, Though that does not mean it wasn't satisfying. It just wasn't like, oh my god, top book of the year. But very good, would recommend to people. Is Pen Pal by Dathan Arubach. This was originally a Reddit thread that was made into a book, and it follows this man as he works to discover what happened to him as a child and his past. He doesn't know exactly what happened to him, and it's him working through his youth to basically figure out what really happened to him when he was younger. This book was absolutely fantastic in the audio platform. I listened to it on Audible, and this book it really drew me in. Only issue with it was that I thought that the like mystery and like the horror side of it was like really like enthralling, and like you're really in the story and you're like, wow, what's gonna happen next? But at a certain point it kind of became repetitive to a certain degree. This is a great like one-time read right before bed, because that's when you're supposed to read horror books naturally. And I would highly recommend it to anyone who is looking to kind of read a book that has to do with like past horrors and past traumas and how that affects you as an adult. You can kind of see that throughout the pages, how as he learns more about his past, how he starts to gain clarity about what really happened when he was a kid. It was definitely chilling. The ending was nowhere near like absolute horrifying as I expected it to be. Like by the end of this book, I had been scared a few times, and I was really expecting like bang, like I'm terrified, oh my god, help me. But I didn't really get those vibes. At the end I was just kind of like, yeah, saw that one coming. So it wasn't necessarily the predictability of it as much as it was just kind of like, okay, fine, like that's how it ends. I can see that ending that way. That was a proper wrap up of the story. I'm personally going to give this book 3 out of 5 stars. Would recommend. The next book I read is the last horror book on this list of books that I have for you, and that is Hex. Just before we get started, this is probably one of my favorite horror books of all time. It is written by Thomas Oldhwevelt, however you wish to pronounce that. Whatever the proper way is, please let me know. And it was also translated by Nancy Forrest Flyer. This is an amazing book that basically takes place in modern times in a small town called Black Spring. Just the unique thing about this town is that there just happens to be a few 100-year-old witch jaywalking throughout the town. This book is really good because in a lot of horror books you see the typical tropes such as like cell phone reception is not there, or no one has their cell phones, or the book is placed before cell phones. But this author really does an amazing job of incorporating technology into the story. There's an app that all of the citizens of the town use to report sightings of the witch. There's like, of course, procedures and policies regarding use of technology, because the witch in this small town is a secret that only the citizens of the town know and are forbidden of telling anyone outside of the town about. You do see how that restriction has impacted the teenagers of the town and what they've done to basically garner their freedom and try and get out of what they're viewing as this oppression. This book is absolutely fantastic for also its metaphor within the story. I'm not going to say anything because, like I said, this is a spoiler-free video. By the end, I literally put down this book and I was like, oh my god, that was what the book was actually all about. And insane. Absolutely amazing. This is a 5 out of 5 for me. 5 stars out of 5. Highly would recommend. I'm going to read it again probably soon. Probably as we get closer to Halloween. Absolutely fantastic book. The characters in this series are just absolutely so well written for. You really understand a lot of their ambitions and their issues. Of course, at the end, there were a few characters so I was like, okay, you're a bloody moron. But besides for that, absolutely excellent story. Loved it so much. Highly recommend you read this. The last book on this list is The Queen of Blood by Sarah Beth Durst. This is the first book in a trilogy, and I've so far only read the first one, not withholding my opinion of the other 2 books. I am so far loving this series, very much so. This kind of takes place in a fantasy world where the humans and the spirits of the plants and trees and water and air are all kind of living symbiotically. The only caveat being that, of course, because why wouldn't it be this way, the plants and the trees and the spirits of these things want to kill the humans desperately. and the only thing that's keeping them in control is the queen of the land, who's a human, and she has the power to basically make sure that the spirits of the trees and the spirits of the water and the air don't just turn around and just destroy everything in their path and kill all the humans possible. In this world, only women have the power to control these spirits, and the most powerful of them being, of course, the queen. And our main character, Delania, is one of these women who has these powers. And she, in the very beginning of the book, is sent to an academy to start learning how to control her powers. And while this is happening, there's another character who is a champion. The champion are the kind of the Knights of the Round Table. They protect the queen, and then they also ensure that the queen has an heir, because when the queen dies, she gets obliterated by the spirits, because she's been keeping them under check with her powers for so long that they develop such a hatred for her that the second her powers begin to wane, the spirits all kind of jump on her and take her apart piece by piece, and then the spirits need to choose a new queen, which would be one of these women that are being trained for that specific role. And Delania is one of those, and that's what every girl at the academy is there for, to one day potentially become the next queen. So this champion, his name is Ven. He has been disgraced by the queen, and he's kind of out in the wilderness protecting human beings from the various spirits and making sure that no one's dying. Their paths eventually intersect when Ven comes and collects Delania to begin her training on his side of it and get her ready to become an heir. This book was so good on its world building front. Sarah Beth Durst does an amazing job of making you fall in love with this world, but also in a way that you want to live there, but at the same time does it so well that you're like, but I also would never want to live there. And it was brilliantly done. The character work, the relationships between each other were brilliant. I loved it very much. I loved the mentor-apprentice relationship going on between the two main characters. I never saw the plot twist coming, and it was very well done. Part of the reason I loved it is because I didn't feel like there was a lot of fat on this one. A lot of books out there, there's parts in there where you're like, you could just cut that out. There's no fat in this book. It was very quick, very to the point, and very well done. And I absolutely loved it. And I would recommend this book to a friend, and I'd probably give it a rating of 4.5 stars. And we will see how the rest of the series goes, and I'll keep you guys updated. Okay, everyone. So those are my 5 books. 4 horror, 1 fantasy, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for coming to A Couple Books. I am Couple, and I hope to see you guys in the next one.